Hey, 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 and welcome to another episode of Reality Rights. I am author Ellie Alexander, and I'm here with the tech guy.
Hello. How's it going today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Just all right.
Yeah. Got a run in. Feeling good vibes. Yeah. It's good. Sunny. It's not too hot. Not too cold.
Check.
Right.
Well, this is the podcast where we talk about all things writing and pull back the curtain a little bit. And today we're going to tackle a pretty important subject, and that is this idea that it's just a cozy. Like, what an utterly dismissive thing to say about an entire genre of books.
There's a lot of dismissive stuff going around these days, isn't there?
There really is. And I think it's an important topic to discuss because a lot of readers, obviously, a lot of our darlings are cozy fans. I myself clearly am a cozy fan.
Some of them are cozy writers, too.
Some of them are cozy writers, exactly. And we have to stop belittling any kind of reading. Like, the stats on reading are just so troubling. Every year, fewer and fewer and fewer people are picking up books. So there's just this whole level of like reading shaming that's going on, which I'm not here for.
Yeah, it's, I think I've made my feelings clear on what people can do with their opinions on this podcast before. Read what you want to read. And you know what? Anybody who wants to tell others that what they're reading isn't good enough, isn't, whatever. It's just like, yeah. I'll save my real feelings for the after party.
Yeah. Okay.
So that way I don't have to flag this podcast episode includes explicit content box on Spotify. So
we're getting the PG version.
Right.
For Spotify.
These episodes are always Tech Guy PG. For those of you listening, if you want to hear the real thoughts, you gotta join the Patreon and listen to the after party.
It all comes out in the after party. Right. Okay, but I want to share a few statistics because these are new statistics that came out for 2024 on a survey that went throughout the U.S. asking about reading habits, and over half of the respondents haven't read any books, have not read a single book in over a year. 48.5% of respondents said that they had not read a single book in a year, which I just think is devastating, obviously, right? So one of the problems that I have with this idea of the cozy getting written off as let's say fluffy. In fact, me and my friend Ellie Adams did a whole little fun Instagram reel about like, you can call the cozy a lot of things, but for the love of God, do not call it fluffy or just write it off like, oh, it's just a cozy. So I think for starters, we should go back and talk about what makes a mystery a cozy.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good place to start because I think a lot of people have misconceptions about it. I think a lot of people would be surprised, not only book genre, books that are in the genre, but also TV shows that fall into the cozy mystery genre as well.
Exactly. Okay, so, if I'm going to take the breadth of the category of mysteries as a genre, you have everything from like true crime, dark noir, all the way on the dark end of the spectrum to the lighter side, which would be a cozy. But they all mysteries have the same key elements that are involved: a certain number of suspects, a body, a victim, a detective, an amateur sleuth, somebody who's going to solve the crime and put it all together. So that's the like big umbrella version of mystery. But then these subcategories within mystery fall into, tighter reading groups, perhaps. Like, a lot of readers who enjoy the cozy are unlikely, not always, but unlikely to love something that is like super dark, true crime, like full CSI.
Yeah, and there's a market for those too. I happen to enjoy those a lot, but I love the cozies.
I threw that out for you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, all the CSI flavors too. CSI New York, CSI Miami, CSI Vegas. Yeah, all of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what you love about that is that those shows follow a formula.
Oh, totally. Totally. I mean,
right?
every single episode it's the same formula. Every single episode, just different sub characters, different crimes, different victims, but every single episode is the same formula.
It's the same formula. And at the end that the perpetrator is going to be caught and justice is going to be served and all is right with the world. And you move on to the next episode.
Right. The difference in the CSI world from the cozy world is main characters die.
Right.
Like it's there's a lot more violence, and main characters die, which doesn't often happen in cozies. I don't know if maybe it does. I don't think it hasn't happened in your cozies anyway. But
It has not happened in mine, although you never know. Richard Lord could.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. So the cozy is more about the focus on the puzzle, on solving the crime. It is about the sleuth taking all the clues, piecing them together, going and talking to suspects. And the actual crime tends to take place off screen, basically, is what we say. So there's not so much focus in terms of the body and all of the crime scene piece of things, and it's more about the puzzle of the mystery. But
well,
in
and
general,
I mean, there's not as much of a focus on that the actual crime itself piece, because a pastry chef isn't going to be collecting evidence in evidence bags with tweezers and latex gloves and all of that, right?
I mean, she does have tweezers to adhere like sprinkles
Sure.
to the top of the cake, so
Totally.
maybe. Yeah, right.
But she's not running DNA analysis next to the muffins that are baking down in the kitchen, right? At Torque.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's another difference with the cozy. There's also a bigger focus on sort of the sense of community. Maybe sometimes you will weave in a hobby or another layer for readers, so to speak, which is one of the reasons I think that it gets written off. And what I mean by written off is globally, if we kind of break this down in terms of publishing, which is one of the reasons that I think it's important for writers of the genre and also readers of the genre to kind of take back some ownership and power over it and not let it be so dismissive. But one of the ways that this shows up is that many bookstores won't carry cozies.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird, especially in destination towns, like anything like even Ashland, but beach towns, anywhere tourists are coming. I feel like the cozies, the romance, those genres of books are the books that people want for an escape when they're when they're on vacation, when they're having fun, when they're relaxing, right? Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And I think calling it escapism is great. That's one thing that I actually hope readers are taking away from my books, that if you're picking one up, you have this moment of just getting to go in this beautiful, joyful, sweet little world of Ashland, Oregon, and eat these delicious treats. And then, of course, stumble upon a murder. Right. So I don't think that it needs to be taken to the level of like pretending, or not pretending, but like expounding that cozies are like literary fiction, let's say, right? That's in a category all of its own. But within the mystery genre, they get the least amount of attention. They get the least amount of investment from publishing houses. And then on a sort of a broader scale, they also just get written off because they tend to be read and written by women.
Ooh, now we're now things are going to get heated.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I have a question about that, because what I've noticed. So first of all, I know that there are some cozies, some very successful cozy series, who look like they're written by women, but they're really written by men using a woman's name as a pen name.
Right.
But there are also cozies out there written by men, and those books aren't in like the mass market format. They are in the trade paperback format all the time. Like they've never been in the mass market format. Why is that? Like, why is that the patriarchy? Are we
That
gonna?
is, yes.
We can't afford the licensing for Taylor Swift, but I
Yeah.
know we'd be playing that right now, right?
You
So
know it. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, there's still a major wage and gender gaps. Women in publishing make 80 cents to the dollar what men make today in 2024. The way that I know, it's ridiculous. The way that cozies are promoted oftentimes, even by publishers, is that same kind of like, oh, they're fluff. And so, this is part of kind of like our broader mid list that we're going to push, but we're not going to spend a whole lot of time putting much attention to it. And then even within the house, an author like me, let's say, that has been in the business for 12 plus years now, it's always like, well, we should try to find a way to break you out of the cozy. Like, let's get you out of the cozy. Like, well, wait a minute. Why don't we spend more attention on promoting the cozy? And to your point, there are a number of books within the last year or two that have hit big that are fantastic. That have been written by men that would be what you think of as a cozy. They hit all of those notes that we've talked about, right? And they are marketed differently. The covers are different. They're in trade paperback. Their marketing budget is ginormous. And I think that's just such a holdover in terms of there being this kind of stigma and shame about reading that primarily falls to women. And the two key categories there would be the cozy and romance.
Yeah. So okay. So I mean, that's a bunch of crap that it happens
Right?
that way. But that's as far as I can go on the cursing scale.
Is that
Outside the
acceptable?
after party, yeah.
Not a fire.
But because I mean, I know this will shock a lot of people, but I don't read a lot of cozy mysteries. I've read like your books, and I'm an early reader of your books and everything, but I tend to read more science fiction and fantasy, which can get lumped into the same thing in terms of not being, as serious when it comes to people who are literary fiction readers. But for what was it called? The Thursday Murder Book Club? Is that the
Yeah.
title? That was
Thursday Murder Club, yeah.
Richard something,
Osmond.
right?
Mhm.
Osmond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're
So
great.
I had a coworker tell me, "Oh, you should, like, your wife writes cozies. It's great. You would love this book. It's awesome." But my question is, so obviously we just talked about how men writing in the same genre, their books are different. Their covers are different. And I'll get into the covers in a minute, but I want to know, is the audience supposed to be the same? Like, is the Thursday Murder Book Club audience the same as like the BAKESHOP Mysteries or Ellery's books or Joanne Fluke's series? Like, are they going after the same? Like, there's not like a I'm not even going to get hate for this. There's not like a men's cozy mystery genre, is there?
Oh,
I'm asking for a friend.
No, this is gonna fire me up. There's not even a men's fiction category.
I know.
Which just still to this day inflames me.
Yeah.
There's women's fiction, but women are reading on par, like double what men are reading too, which is so ridiculous. And one-sided, and even your style of reading, like fantasy and we're not throwing like I loved the Thursday Murder Club. In fact, I'm picking it for the October book, but my beef is in general with publishing, how there's such a disparity in terms of the way that these books get presented and marketed to readers. But same kind of thing. Like, if you're reading something that's just like sci-fi and fast and fun, that's the same thing as a cozy, right?
Yeah,
just
totally.
in a different genre.
Yeah.
But you don't get the same sort of pushback, let's say, because it's just fiction then. It's not men's fiction.
Right.
It's just fiction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there are, I don't know, big awards for sci-fi books and everything too. And I know there are awards for cozy mysteries and stuff as well, but they are not as well known across the publishing industry, I guess.
Right. But to your point, like what the publishing houses will do with let's say a title like the Thursday Murder Club is, the audiences are the same, and then that's the whole like, oh, let's break out, let's just make it a mystery. Like, that's going to be called a mystery. It's not going to be in the cozy section. And so then hopefully the readership of that gets, I don't know, tripled, doubled 10 times over because their marketing budgets are going after a much broader base. And I think the writing is on the wall for the mass market too, which is what cozies have predominantly been in terms of a size. If darlings aren't familiar, mass markets they're called that because traditionally you could find them at grocery stores, at Target, at bookstores. They're small. They're like made to tuck in a bag or, your backpack as you're running errands and waiting at the dentist or whatever it is.
And they're sold at a like variety of store types. So everything
Exactly.
from bookstores to Costco,
Yes.
that's like, and grocery stores, like in the checkout aisle sometimes even, and they're just small so they can fit in all these spaces. Airports.
Yeah. Yeah. And that space is dwindling. I have a lot of friends who in the last year or two have had series completely canceled, and it's because their books are going into maybe hardcover or trade
Oh,
paperback, and it's a different
hardcovers.
price point. It's a much harder sell. There's not shelf space. But what that's doing then is it's inching out such a big part of the population too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and they did an experiment with like trying to come up with that size that was in between mass market and trade. What they call max market.
Max market.
Yeah, a couple of the BAKESHOP books are that size, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
two of them. Uh-huh.
yeah. The two
Yeah.
taller ones on the shelf behind you.
I don't know if you can see them. Yeah. Pick them out. Pick them out in the lineup.
Yeah. Oh,
It's painful.
terrible. Yeah.
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 And then I just think it's for readers, if you're reading something that's cozy on the beach or on the plane or whatever, you shouldn't be in a position where it's like, oh, you're just reading a cozy. Oh, you're just reading something fluffy. Because reading is an escape. Reading is an important piece of self care these days. And to have any sort of stigma around it is just absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I'm reading like there's scientific proof, and I know I'm hoping all the darlings out there believe in science. I know there are people who don't, which is ridiculous, but there's scientific proof that reading is actually good for your brain.
That's great for your brain.
So it's like you can learn new words. Yeah, it stimulates all the little gray cells, as a famous cozy mystery detective would tell you.
Right. It stimulates all the little gray cells. It is good for your mental health. It brings down your blood pressure. I mean, the statistics go on and on and on. It's incredible for your own creativity. If you want to write, the number one thing you can do is read, which is the first piece of advice I always give writers in my author academy. Okay, go read, like go to the bookstore and peruse the cozy section and be like, yes, my book is going to be like this and like this and like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's always that always surprises me, or it surprises me that people are surprised by that if you want to be a good writer, you should be a good reader. Seems like it would be something that would be obvious, but I know it is it's a big lesson for people to learn when they're starting out in the writing world.
It is a big lesson. Yeah. But so you don't read cozies so much, but we watch a lot of cozies.
We watched a ton. Yeah.
We watch a ton of cozies, all of which, same thing, follow this formula.
Oh yeah.
They have the same recurring cast of characters. There are always secondary plots. You get to know the entire cast. You're in the village. I'm thinking of like Death in Paradise.
Yeah. Beyond Paradise. The
Beyond Paradise.
Yeah.
Midsummer Murders.
I mean, I will say this, that the entire reason that streaming services and TV stations like BritBox and Acorn TV exist is because of the cozy mystery genre.
Absolutely,
I mean,
right? Yeah.
they would not exist if it wasn't for, and these series run forever too. I mean, it is like if you like the cozy mystery genre and you like to take a break from reading and watch some shows or even film or TV adaptations of your favorite cozy mystery series, like they're thousands of episodes out there of all these series, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got priests as detective, you've got
Father
nuns as
Brown.
detective, you've got, you know, you've got retired detectives who are now like private detectives, you've got, you know, and even the people who are uh like actual detectives, they always get help from people who have nothing to do with law enforcement.
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
not a
Right.
thing, but they help solve the crimes. So it's a
Yeah.
community effort bringing the bad people to justice.
It's a community effort and it's a comfort show. It's easy
Right.
watching, right?
Yeah.
Which is the same thing. I would also argue to your point that the reason, you know, cozies do so well in streaming services, they also do really well in independent bookstores. I'm thinking about vintage books in Vancouver, Washington, where I got my start. We did a whole bookstore love episode a while back. So if you want to listen in, darlings, go back and listen to that. But they had, I don't know if they still do, but when I was first starting out, they had a customer who would come in once a week and buy a stack of whatever new cozies had come out for his wife because she wasn't able to leave the house due to medical issues. Every week he would come in and buy a new stack because she would read through them in a week. And I mean, talk about like loyal customer supporting all of the genre. That happens too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know if you remember, but back when I was working in advertising, I had to go to Houston,
Yeah.
and so I went to Murder by the Book, which for the darlings out there that don't know is just an absolutely amazing mystery bookshop in Houston, Texas. Very, very cool. They get really big name authors like Ellie Alexander to visit sometimes. But before you even got started, I remember I was dropping off. I was going to Houston, and you said, "Hey, can you take an ARC out to Murder by the Book?" And it was like on the complete other side of that. It was like a $80 Uber ride, but but I went out there and I was nervous because we were just getting started. I mean, this was your first book. And so like going in there to hand this over, I was just like, oh, wow, this, you know, what are they going to say? And they're like, oh yeah, this is great. We'll take a look. And oh, that's so great that you're getting into it and everything. While I was there, a woman probably in her late 70s, early 80s, barely 5 feet tall, like walks by, and she has a stack of like 14 books, and she sets them down, and they greeted her, "Oh, hey Martha, you're back for a new round, and oh, this one's great. No, that, oh yeah, oh, you found this series, this is great." And they're like, "Okay, here you go." They bagged them up for her and everything, and she just looked so excited. She's heading out, and they're like, "Okay, we'll see you in a couple of weeks." And she's like, "Oh, I'll be back in a couple of days. These will last till Thursday." I'm like, what? Like she's just gonna blow through 14 books or whatever in like 4 days. It was all I was impressed because I don't care. Like, I don't care what you think of the cozy mystery genre. If you're reading that many books in a week, like, tip of the hat, right?
Damn, yeah.
that is a lot of reading.
That
That's
is a lot
impressive.
of reading. And
Yeah.
I find that, you know, I hear that from readers all the time. I think I'm writing at a pretty fast pace these days. And I will hear at least once or twice a week from a reader being like, I need more soon. I've already finished. I've read everything you have. I'm trying. I'm
Right.
trying.
I know. Yeah. It's been so funny to see comments from readers who are like 6 months until the next book, because
Sorry.
these are people who get the book and they read it on release day. And I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the ways that I got my start. I mean, obviously, I've been reading cozies for decades, thanks to my mom and grandma getting me started on them as a kid. But you and Sky Guy, every birthday, every Christmas,
yeah.
any holiday, special occasion, you'd go through,
Yeah.
and like he would say, like, "Oh no, she's read that one, Dad. Get that one."
Yeah. I needed his help because I mean, that like that, and to your earlier point, the mass market, the space is dwindling even at like, bigger stores like Barnes and Noble. But he would always remember like, no, I remember that dog or I remember that cat on the cover. Yeah. I was like, that's how he figured out which ones you had and hadn't read. Actually, that brings up another question. For any of the men out there writing in this genre, did any of their covers have animals on them? I don't. Or is that exclusive to the women? Because the reason I ask is because
Yeah.
you brought that up about the covers being different, and it is really like the cozy mysteries. They've gotten better, but they're maybe over the last 10 years. They looked like books that were marketed at a very specific demographic,
Right.
and so with the few examples of men's books that we brought up, their covers do look dramatically different from like the standard. I'm using air quotes here, standard cozy mystery covers, but I don't think I've seen animals on any of them.
I know. I can't think off the cuff of anything that's coming to mind, but probably not.
Yeah, yeah,
Which, just speaks to that point too.
I
One
know.
thing talking about bookstores early on, and this is something that I have become so self-aware of and I fix anytime, but I early on in my career and even up until the last few years, if I went into a bookstore, I would often find myself being sheepish too, or being like, "Oh, I write a cozy. It's just a cozy." Like, no, I wrote these. Like, I
Right.
love this genre, and so I think that's one of the reasons that I'm passionate about this topic and wanting readers to feel the same way. Because I remember I went into a bookstore in San Francisco when we first moved down here. So this was only a few years ago, and I did the same kind of thing. And the bookstore owner stopped me, and he's like, "What? What are you saying? Like, you have a series with 19 books. Like, this is fantastic. This." I mean, he was amazing. He was incredible, but like, no, stop dissing on your own genre. Like, even the fact that you're being sort of sheepish about this idea of like, oh, I don't know, like it's a cozy, um, I think speaks to the pervasiveness within the genre that tends to happen.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It definitely. Well, and it's like that with a couple of the, because I know I've heard you talk about this before, but some of the bigger like mystery conferences, right? The reader and
Yeah.
writer conferences where
Uh-huh.
it's like, oh, cozy just gets
Mhm.
kind of pushed over here in the corner, and yeah, that's too bad. Because
Well, we're changing that here.
yeah,
We're taking the cozy back. I'm
that's right.
stomping my foot, darlings. We're taking ownership of it back. Ellery and I have been on a mission for the last couple years to like take away this myth too. And the thing is, like, even with mass markets, of course, the way people read has shifted too. So many
Mhm.
readers are reading online. I mean, ebooks outnumber paperback by
And
miles.
audiobooks.
And
Audiobooks
audio.
too.
Yeah,
It's taken a
absolutely.
big, big increase over the past couple of years, so
Yeah. So I mean, I think the shift is going to continue. I think things come in trends and waves in publishing too. But my takeaway for darlings who love this genre is like make sure, and this isn't about me. This is about like any cozy author that you love, especially if it's an author who is newer in their career and they're trying and starting to build a series because the publishing house doesn't always give an author that long. It might be 2 or 3 books. And if they're not hitting right
Mhm.
away, then, that series might get canceled. So I want the darlings out there, if you're loving a cozy, to do all of the things that we talked about in a previous episode in terms of how you can support writers who you love.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because it's all driven by money on the publishing end, and so even if a series has a, like, loyal following, if that following is not big enough and people aren't buying enough books, they're just not gonna continue it. Um, Thankfully, the, indie publishing is
Yeah,
really strong
crushing.
now.
Yeah,
It is
uh-huh.
really strong. And so I mean, Sloane Krause is a perfect example, the Sloane Krause mysteries, right? Where, the publisher decided, okay, we're going to end it with 5 books. They were all
Yeah.
hardcovers, for whatever reason. They were
Oh,
all hardcovers. And, and then you were like, "No, I wanna keep writing this," and we've kinda continued that on, and people have been ecstatic about that. So that's been great, to see that how far indie publishing has come that allows authors, that's an option to keep a series going, but
absolutely.
it's even with that, it still requires readers to, like, support the cozy.
Love the cozy, spread the
Yeah.
cozy love. That's what we're doing here all the time. Well,
Yeah.
and Sloan's also a great example of early on. I had written a pitch for that like 4 or 5 years earlier that I sent to my agent, and my agent was like, beer and a cozy.
Yeah.
That's not
Oh,
gonna
I know.
fly."
Whoa, that was like,
Ah,
whoo, crossing a line, crossing a
crossing the
line.
line. No one's gonna want to read about beer. That
Yeah.
there's like again, like boxing in this idea of what can be cozy. So I was like, all right, and kind of tabled it. And then lo and behold, 4 or 5 years later, my editor was like, hey, I want to do something else with you. Have you thought of any other ideas? I'm like, well, I've been sitting on this for a long time. It so happened that my editor is also a huge fan of craft beer and was immediately like, yes, yes, I want to do this.
Yeah.
But, and what I think is exciting, and this is, sort of been led by indie publishing, is there's kind of this, like, in between that's happening, like, there's the great series, Legends and Lattes that's blending, like, fantasy and
Oh, yeah.
cozy. Gigi
Um,
has an
I've thought
amazing
about picking that one up, actually.
Oh, do you yeah, you should. Gigi has an amazing secret, staircase series that are like locked room mysteries with this touch of cozy. So I think there's a lot of cool, fresh stuff that's happening in the market. And then the other thing that I adore is that there's this new generation of book influencers who have completely highlighted the cozy in so many new ways. I'm thinking about Cortagonist, Beach Bum Bookworm, Intentionally Bookish. In fact, they're going to do a panel together at Ashland Mystery Fest to talk about their love of the cozy and how they feel like the market is shifting, which is so cool.
That's awesome. Well, I think that that's a really important point, though. That I think one of the reasons, and this was not the fault of the authors or the readers or anybody, it was the publishing industry, the man,
Man,
um,
so fun.
who kind of like they kind of like cozy mystery got like it was your grandma's book, right? You
Right,
know that
right.
it was about like rhubarb pies and knitting.
Yeah.
And somebody
Not
at
that
the
there's anything wrong with either of those, right? Yeah.
no, totally, there's not. But what I'm saying is that that is the only thing that's what cozy mystery kind of got, I think kind of got a reputation for.
Right.
See how I'm weaving Taylor Swift back into this a little bit. Um,
Something about
uh,
a special announcement with an album dropping?
no, but I think, and I think that it unfairly got stuck with that. So, going back to, well, you can't do anything with beer in the cozy mystery genre. And
Right.
it's like, why not? Like why can't cozy mysteries be about any subject? It doesn't
Absolutely.
have to be about these. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. I'm just saying that maybe those things don't resonate as much with today's reader of cozy mysteries, like the newer, younger audience, as they did with the original reader audience of cozy mysteries. And it's been fun to see all the different subjects that have
Yeah.
come up. The number of professions that the
Yes.
amateur sleuths have is just it's been just wildly expanded over the last like
Yes,
10
which is what's
years.
so exciting, and another reason that, instead of having this like, "Oh, it's just a cozy," or, "Oh, it's so fluffy," like, "Yeah, it is. Let's
Yeah,
go. It's cozy." Like,
totally,
so
totally. Uh,
it's my soapbox for the week.
so what can readers do to help kind of champion the cozy? What can
A
the darlings do?
Yeah, darlings like me, let's stop making excuses. Like, let's just fully embrace that we love cozies. I think we need shirts, Tech Guy. I don't know what they're going to be, but like for the love of the cozy or
Mm.
something.
Really cool shirts. Like right now, I'm wearing a shirt with narwhals on it, and their horns are lightsabers because
Yeah,
it's Narwars.
narwhal.
It tells you the kind of books I read, and I honestly don't care what anybody thinks about what I read. I love what I read, and so yeah,
There
I
it is.
think I think
Yeah.
we like you should be like intensely proud of what you're into reading and just the fact that you are reading, and don't let
Yes,
anybody tell you otherwise.
exactly.
I have other words, like other names for the people who tell you that this genre of books you're reading isn't good enough, but I can't use those here. So
Yeah, and then like I said before, we did just recently do a whole episode of ways that you can support your favorite author. So a quick recap of that might be like sharing about their books, requesting them at the library, leaving a review. That's a quick little like few, but really I think the main point that I want to drive home today for myself and for all of the darlings is that the cozy can be whatever you want it to be. And you should be loud and proud that you love it.
definitely, yeah. There are just there's so many options out there, so many authors. Like I've always been, the thing that I've been impressed the most about the cozy mystery genre is just the number of series that are available. So you know what? If you love this genre, there are more books than you'll be able to read in your lifetime. I
Yes.
mean, there just are.
Sure.
Like it is incredible how prolific this genre is, and that's super fun. There are many long running series, and like we said earlier, just the gamut of subjects is just incredible.
That's right. So, as we wrap up another episode of Reality Rights, darlings, this is your excuse to run over to your closest bookstore or your library and go grab yourself a stack of cozies.
Wait, is there a cozy series that involves like a techish guy that is the sleuth that ends up solving big mysteries? Just
Are we coming up with a new series right now? Okay.
I actually think I thought of one. We'll have to talk about it later. So, yeah.
Ooh, okay. All right. I'm loving it. All right. Well, on that note, until next time.
Until next time, maybe we'll talk about new ideas. All right.